Hello everyone, please press subscribe, press follow, press the bell so you don't miss any new clips. Astral Pets Store. Author by Ancient She. Audio novels by Novelist. Astral Pets Store. Chapter 191, Killing Lion. Not long after, Su Ping arrived at a barren mountain chain fully covered by burning earth and of course, groups of fire-type monsters, who immediately sensed his arrival and crept closer. Su Ping summoned his Inferno Dragon. The dominating aura of the dragon did a quick job scaring lesser monsters away, while slightly stronger ones stayed inside their territories and trembled. Without minding the monsters, Su Ping headed straight to the biggest volcano in sight. If his memory served him right, the only threat he would come upon was a killing lion that lived at the mountain peak. It was a superior species among all fire-type monsters who could wield many 9th rank abilities and was immune to dragon wool. He had previously managed to defeat the lion only by throwing himself to death repeatedly. Just then, however, he was confident that his pets could take on the lion just fine. They had grown a lot stronger since that day. Rather, Su Ping wasn't planning to kill the lion this time. He wanted to capture it. As he expected, he saw a large lava pool at the tip of the mountain, which began bubbling madly upon his arrival. Abruptly, a pillar of fire was shot his way. The Inferno Dragon growled, then took a leap ahead and blocked the fire attack in Su Ping's stead. Splash! A gigantic creature over a dozen meters in length from head to tail emerged from the lava and stayed afloat above the surface on its burning limbs, gazing down at its enemies with a pair of burning eyes filled with unquenchable anger. Its body was fully covered by glossy, emerald-like scales. Despite its body resembling a bulky lion, it had a long-snouted, reptilian head that was occasionally spitting violet embers. Su Ping summoned Little Skeleton to join him, before he took out 4 middle-rank beast-catching rings and prayed for a good result. Take that. Using his astral power, he hurled the rings at the towering beast. The killing lion felt offended by the attack and summoned a wall of lava, which crashed down upon Su Ping's position like a tidal wave. Su Ping quickly pulled the rings back before they were swallowed by the burning liquid. Welp, I need to subdue it first then. It seems I can't ambush 9th rank pets so easily. Together, Little Skeleton and the Inferno Dragon charged ahead to engage the lion, while the Dark Dragon Hound tried flanking the lion by using its superior speed. Meanwhile, Su Ping stayed outside the conflict zone and hid behind the purple python. It didn't take long before the killing lion showed several noticeable wounds all over its body, most of which had been caused by Little Skeleton's unpredictable attacks. Seeing Little Skeleton fooling their enemy like a pro by teleporting here and there, an idea suddenly flashed in Su Ping's mind. Will it work if I let Little Skeleton handle the beast-catching rings? He called Little Skeleton back to try that out right away. Little Skeleton seemed a bit confused by the order when it was just enjoying the thrill of chopping its quarry. Still, it listened to Su Ping's command soon enough and returned, with its bone blades still dripping more blood onto the floor. Su Ping handed the rings to the skeleton and told it what to do through their spirit connection. It took Little Skeleton a while to comprehend the new order, during which the Inferno Dragon quickly went on the losing side after losing Little Skeleton's help. It was being pummeled by the killing lion helplessly. Go! Su Ping urged Little Skeleton so the Inferno Dragon wasn't further endangered. Little Skeleton nodded slightly and disappeared. A second later, it somehow flashed on top of the lion's head, lifted a beast-catching ring, and threw it down. Ping! The lion was hopping left and right to find better spots to claw at the Inferno Dragon. Before it could land another hit, its body was frozen solid. It melted into a purple light beam and entered the ring. Whistle bullseye. Nice. Su Ping smiled in satisfaction. He immediately pulled the ring back to him to prevent it from falling into the lava below. If the ring was destroyed, the killing lion would get out and his efforts would have been ruined. Just like the flame blood dragon, the lion had been ensnared by several impressive chains inside a dark space, which would dangerously tighten up as the lion struggled. Su Ping sighed in relief and put the ring away, before he ordered the Dark Dragon Hound to jump into the lava pool and retrieve the material he was looking for. The hound whined and looked at Su Ping with a pair of watery puppy eyes. Su Ping told the Inferno dragon to push the hound into the lava pool instead. The ferocious dragon heeded the order after giving its comrade in arms an almost sympathetic look. The hound saw the dragon's claw coming, yelped in despair, and dived into the lava by itself. A moment later, it returned to the surface and spat out a stagnant puddle from its mouth that looked like melted metal. Even with enough defensive enchantments, the hound's mouth and tongue were still burned badly. Su Ping pulled the puddle into his hand and sensed the comforting heat contained inside, before he placed it into his inventory space. 2 more materials, and I can finally level up the solar bulwark, he beamed at the thought. After breaking through, my body will finally be strong enough to endure the attacks of 9th-ranked warriors. He already knew where to find one of the remaining materials, which was hidden in another, dragon-scale land. This had left him with only one other material to look for. Without tarrying, he jumped onto the purple python and left this sector behind. Astral Pet Store. Chapter 192. Dragon Eggs. Since he already knew the way, Su Ping quickly found the inspection checkpoint, then waited for a bit in line, and entered the room he had just left not long before. "It's Mr. Su." Qin Shuhai opened his jaw in shock but quickly recovered. "Did you just go on another exploration?" "Yeah." Su Ping nodded. Qin Shuhai shook his head and decided not to ask questions. It was understandable that someone who had earned a big fortune in the mysterious realm would want to keep going. Su Ping took out his backpack and unloaded its content, 2 energy crystals extracted from 7th-rank monsters. Qin Shuhai looked at the items with twitching eyebrows. He was expecting better. "Well, it seems you didn't have much luck this time, Mr. Su." "Afraid so." Su Ping feigned a disappointed look. "Don't worry though, you can always try again and perhaps find more extraordinary treasures, as you did last time." "Thanks. That's what I'm aiming for." Several titled warriors in the room gave Su Ping their friendly attention, as they had already decided to treat him on fair terms. However, there were exceptions, such as Lady Feng, who had always doubted Su Ping's reliability. HMPH. That was some serious luck for him to find an astral spirit fruit. Was he aiming to be the lucky dog again? "Don't make me laugh." Although the others didn't quite buy her words, they voiced their support to Su Ping. "Well, I'd do the same and try my luck in different sectors if I could." "Yeah, luck isn't something you can predict. Who knows what will happen? You just gotta keep on." When the inspection was done, Su Ping headed to the waiting area again, while rejecting several more recruiters coming his way. He was quite familiar with the workflow at this moment. He skillfully made the payment, selected a target sector and teleported there, all the while without needing any guidance. The flow of time ticked away relentlessly and 2 more days passed as Su Ping kept enjoying his job. By then, the workers in the inspection room were no longer surprised by his frequent visits in the least. Qin Shuhai had lost count of the number of times he had seen Su Ping, since Su Ping had always returned after a few hours or even faster after each inspection. They would have seen him as another employee if they didn't know better. Qin Shuhai looked at Su Ping's backpack, which looked rather filled this time. Similarly, all the others paid attention and wondered what kind of items Su Ping had brought back, after being disappointed so many times during those days. "Please." Qin Shuhai signaled Su Ping with a smile. They all knew what to do. Su Ping nodded and unbuttoned the pack. Thud, thud. Several boring energy crystals and spotted eggs rolled onto the table. The inspectors exchanged several confused looks as they wondered whether Su Ping had rummaged through a monster nest. None of them was a professional trainer. They couldn't tell what kind of astral pets would come out of the eggs. Mr. Su, what a..." Qin Shuhai wanted to figure out what those were before they were sent for inspection. Su Ping answered without a problem. 4-winged storm dragons. 9th rank. Dragon eggs. Qin Shuhai stared at him in surprise. 3 of them. 4-winged storm dragons were only considered to be lesser entities among their dragon-type friends, but they were still genuine dragons, not drakes or some half-breed. They hardly lost when it came to fighting against something of the same rank. Moreover, those storm dragons were adept at speed, something that endowed them with a high survivability rate because they could simply escape if there was something they couldn't handle. "Me, Mr. Su, are you perhaps selling 'em?" asked Qin Shu Hai. Su Ping looked around the room and saw how everyone was eager to buy the eggs. As titled battle pet warriors, you don't really need these lower 9th rank pets, right? Qin Shu Hai chuckled. That might be correct, but you should know that dragon-type pets are always rare, so nobody would pass up the chance to keep them as secondary pets. Besides, we can always use them as gifts for our younger family members. These things make great pets for pet warriors who have yet to reach our level. I see, Su Ping pondered. May I know your offer? Do you want money or other treasures in return? Can I take a look at what kind of treasures I can take? With a bit of frustration, Qin Shu Hai mentioned the names of several items of equal value. Su Ping shook his head. How much for selling them then? Qin Shu Hai was surprised by Su Ping's reaction, for he just thought that he had offered pretty good items just then. The armor he offered to Su Ping could block off the attacks of 9th rank monsters, and yet Su Ping didn't even give it much thought. Let me see. For standard market prices, the egg of a 9th rank dragon-type monster should go for 100 million. A muscular worker nearby chipped in by saying, I give you 120, Mr. Su. Can I have one of them? Su looked that way. Can you pay right away? Of course. The man smiled widely when Su Ping agreed. The others didn't expect Su Ping to sell the eggs that easily, for they thought Su Ping would have better uses for them. For example, one could use those eggs to train 3 high-level battle pet warriors in no time, or give them to titled battle pet warriors as a gift. If someone could control all 3 dragons and teach them to move as a team, their combined strength would grow beyond their limit. Qin Shu Hai quickly offered, I'll buy another one. 120 million. Immediate payment, just like before. I'll take the second one, Mr. Su. 130 million for it. Another man called. 150. Qin Shu Hai raised his price with an annoyed look. That successfully discouraged more competitors, for 150 million was well beyond the average price for the eggs. They might be valuable, but people still needed a lot of time and resources to raise the dragonets, which would probably cost them 3 to 4 times the original expense. Since no one else was speaking, Su Ping gave the second egg to Qin Shu Hai. That was an income of 270 million deposited to his account. Damn, if only I could convert the money into energy points. He had more eggs stashed in his inventory space. Not 4-winged storm dragons, but thunderstorm dragons. Though he wasn't going to take them out for inspection. Astral Pet Store. Chapter 193. Enemies in a Small World. A thunderstorm dragon was an upper 9th rank astral pet, which had overwhelming strength even among all dragon-type pets. While it wasn't as good as an inferno dragon, it could still be placed among the top 10 on the dragon ranking list. As for the 4-winged storm dragons, they weren't even in the ranking list. That was why Su Ping didn't mind getting rid of them. Mr. Su, are you selling the last egg? Another titled warrior in the room tried. Su Ping shook his head. Sorry but no, I have another plan for it. If you really want it, come and visit my shop someday. This was a perfect chance to make his pet shop known. Of course he wouldn't pass up the chance. Your shop, do you run a company? May I know the name? All the others wanted to know Su Ping's usual line of business because they could use it to learn more about Su Ping himself, even though the companies founded by titled warriors were usually for shady purposes like money laundering. Company. It's not really a company. Just a small shop. I sell pet training services, and I also have some pet food for sale. I'm trying to expand the scope of business and perhaps sell pets in the future. This egg will be a candidate. A small shop that sells dragon eggs. Ugh, can I have your business card? Another worker asked. I didn't bring any. Since this wasn't a business trip, Su Ping said, deadpanned, I'll just tell you my address. He told the shop's location to everyone without fearing that somebody would investigate him. If a titled battle pet warrior wanted to know more about him, knowing his face and name was enough. Besides, the system would always keep the shop safe from danger. Su Ping picked up the remaining egg and stepped out of the inspection room. He took several random turns among the traveling people. Once he made sure no one was stalking him, he carefully placed the dragon egg in his inventory space while no one was looking. He could have smuggled all the eggs away, but didn't do so because he didn't want to raise suspicion by always returning with cheap loot. To show his occasional good luck, those storm dragon eggs were a perfect choice. It wasn't hard to get his hands on the eggs because that mother dragon had been weakened due to the recent pregnancy. Instead of going to another exploration right away, Su Ping headed to the lounge area and rented a single room to rest. Those apartments had been built as soon as the mysterious realm was discovered, so smart businessmen could earn money from eager settlers. The rent was 100,000 coins for a night, which was pretty crazy. But the money was worthwhile because the houses were all protected by high-level astral barriers that could bar eavesdroppers. Furthermore, there were always powerful settlers stationed nearby as guards. By going there, Su Ping would both recuperate and to wait out people's suspicion. This way, people would believe that he needed some time to transport the dragon egg away instead of carrying it into another exploration, which would be too strange. He unslung his backpack, summoned Little Skeleton to keep watch, and fell asleep. The mysterious realm didn't have days and nights. There were always people traveling to and fro, who would work or rest as they saw fit. Su Ping woke up refreshed. His phone suggested that he had just spent 8 hours in bed, which was just about right. He retrieved Little Skeleton, who had been giving him that unchanging, blank stare during all these hours, into the pet space. Then he checked out at the apartment managing desk, ordered 2 bottles of hot milk tea and headed to the teleportation station again. The waiting area was clearly not as crowded as before. Most of the time, people didn't need to wait to use the teleportation circle. By the time Su Ping arrived, he only saw one group of people waiting ahead. He finished his strawberry milk tea while waiting and felt refreshed from the inside. Suddenly, the man in front of him looked back and gave him a confused look. Oh. Su Ping checked his face but failed to remember him. The man's partners heard his voice and looked this way. This time, Su Ping saw 2 faces he recognized, the old servant who had attacked him at the Dragon Tower and the young mistress from the Tang family. Though he couldn't remember her name. It's you. Zhao Fenchkin gave Su Ping a hostile look. He was sure Su Ping would have died if Venerable the Blade had not intervened back there. Tang Ruyan saw Su Ping and knitted her brows in disgust as if she had seen a cockroach. But she soon looked away and forgot about him. Someone like her had no time to deal with weaklings, according to her line of thinking. Zhao Fenchkin sneered but didn't move. If Venerable the Blade meant to protect Su Ping, he would not carelessly disobey that decision. Insolent worm. You should be grateful that you're still breathing, the old man uttered under his breath and turned away. Seeing their supervisors doing so, the other guards of the Tang family didn't do anything in particular either. Su Ping decided not to mind the unpleasant encounter. He didn't have time for that. Soon enough, Tang Ruyan's group stepped onto the teleportation circle and vanished. Su Ping waited for his turn, paid the fee and checked the available destinations. Astral Pet Store. Chapter 194, Sector 83. During those days, Su Ping had cleared out a good number of sectors that had yet to be investigated by other settlers, and successfully secured many treasures for himself. Among everything he took so far, there were 2 items he was particularly fond of. The first one was an antique fan that could produce disruptive energy to invade and even destroy the minds of high-level astral pets. The other item was a scroll that sustained a foreign space inside, where he could freely safekeep other items or even creatures. The scroll was not a weapon since it didn't have any offensive properties, but its great value was plain to see nevertheless. There was no doubt that even the richest people in this world would go crazy about it, should they catch wind of its existence. Su Ping's storage space was unable to keep any life forms inside. Having gotten his hands on this scroll was very helpful. Besides, the space inside the scroll was huge. If he wanted, he could hide a dozen adult 9th rank astral pets while still having room to spare. In comparison, the other treasures he took back were not as brilliant, although they were still valuable. For example, the Force Vest was an armor that could protect its wearer from 8th rank attacks or below, as well as helping him to stay afloat in the air for a short duration at the cost of the user's astral power. This meant that those who weren't titled battle pet warriors could use it to fly. Albeit slowly. Of course, this function was pointless in battles. But in Su Ping's case, he could combine this vest with astral telekinesis to achieve high-speed maneuvers and perhaps move faster than common titled warriors. Other than the armor, he also found many useful weapons that could easily tear through the thick hides of 9th rank monsters. I can remember 3 other valuable treasures waiting to be taken. 2 of them were guarded by beast kings. They might have already left after all these years, but I'm not taking the risk. As Su Ping already learned from his many deaths, a Beast King was not only 1 rank mightier than 9th rank monsters, it was much deadlier than that. He would avoid them at all costs. Even the tiniest curiosity could get him killed. Lucky for me, I know where these Beast Kings live. If I accidentally picked a sector with a Beast King inside, I'll quit right away. He checked his remaining options, before fixing his attention on the 3rd choice, which contained another noticeable treasure. As he learned from his dragon-scale land exploration, this item was used for enhancing someone's strength to an unbelievable extent. He had to find it. Filled with determination, he chose a sector at the end of the list named Sector 83. After the familiar feeling of weightlessness, he opened his eyes and saw a forest where the trees appeared several times taller than common trees found in other parts of the world. Man, I found it. He couldn't tell whether a sector was the dragon-scale land he was looking for, so he was ready to spend a few million coins checking several of them until he reached his mark. He didn't expect to get lucky with the first choice of the day. He used to name all the dragon-scale lands he had explored before, while this one with a giant forest was the lush land. That enhancement item was hidden right there. This sector looked a lot like an ancient ground described by dinosaur movies, where everything was bigger than normal. The weeds and low bushes were already as big as fully grown trees, while trees, Su Ping couldn't see their tops from the ground. Like always, he summoned the Dark Dragon Hound, the Purple Python and the Inferno Dragon to respectively scout ahead or guard him. As for Little Skeleton, he would keep it inside the pet space unless something called for it, so it could take its time absorbing the Skeleton King's bloodline. Heeding Su Ping's order, the Inferno Dragon concealed its mighty aura and slightly ducked its head so it stayed hidden among the tall grass. The majestic dragon appeared rather funny when acting in such a manner. The hound soon told Su Ping what it sensed from the environment through their spirit connection. Although, Su Ping was only able to comprehend a part of the information because he wasn't a pet master yet. Since there was no imminent danger, Su Ping ordered the Dark Dragon Hound to stay alert while it moved forward. Meanwhile, he stayed on the Purple Python's head and hid himself behind several scales. While training the python, he intentionally told it to ram head first into enemies frequently. As a result, the scales on its head had hardened quite a bit. Even 9th rank monsters would need some time destroying them. These were far from all his cautionary means. Furthermore, the Dark Dragon Hound would constantly keep watch of him with several enchantment barriers at the ready. Adding his Force Vest and the Solar Bulwark, he was confident that nothing could catch him off guard unless a Beast King somehow found him. With the Soul Lantern in hand, spiritual attacks weren't a problem either, as long as he was ready for them. He was armed to the teeth. The Dark Dragon Hound was not moving as carefree as before when it recognized the dangerous area in which it used to train. Following Su Ping's order, the hound propped up every defensive trick it could use. There was no Beast King in this sector, though they would be expecting a lot of powerful 9th-ranked opponents. The journey inside the forest was mostly peaceful until they ran into an 8th rank monster at the edge. The dark dragon hound and the inferno dragon finished it off quickly without causing too much noise. Su Ping extracted the monster's crystal, took a brief look around the area, and headed to the treasure's location according to what he recalled. My lady, I can't see the stars from here, but according to the lay of the land, it should be there. 9 people were standing along the branch of a giant tree. Thanks to the tree's size, the footing remained stable even with their added weight. The speaker was Xuanhuan, who was currently checking the forest from their vantage point. A beautiful woman was patiently waiting beside him. There was a colorful, eagle-sized bird pet that looked like a small phoenix perched on her shoulder, which was one of her favorite partners. The climate is overabundant with oxygen, which must be why the vegetation is unbelievably oversized. Tang Ruyan checked the map in her hands with a frustrated look. I wonder how much longer we need to travel to reach our destination. Another man in the team spoke up while pointing to the map. My lady, my hermit sparrow has ascertained our current location. If the map is correct, we can move to this river nearby for easier travel. Tang Ruyan examined the said river and frowned again. The river was in the opposite direction of their goal. I see. It can't be helped then. Let's move. Astral Pet Store. Chapter 195, Anima Fruit. Poof. Following a giant splash of blood, a lower 9th rank gold hare collapsed under the pincer attack of the dark dragon hound and the inferno dragon. The hound happily picked away several slices of hare meat, before it skillfully tore through the creature's stomach, pulled out an energy crystal, and approached the purple python waiting nearby. While sitting behind the python's sharp scales, Su Ping remotely pulled the crystal to him and stuffed it into his storage. Don't leave any traces, he ordered his pets using his spirit. The inferno dragon was pretty good at such cleanup work by then. It unleashed some deadly flames from its body and burned up the hare's corpse within a few seconds, leaving only a patch of charred dirt behind. They moved on after their enemy had been dealt with. This was a shortcut along a river that would take them to the treasure faster. Only that it was a riskier choice compared to wider paths since there were lots of monsters dwelling both inside the river and along the riverbanks. The mysterious realm became open to the public 2 days ago. Someone might have already come here when no one was looking. I wonder if the treasure was already taken, Su Ping thought with a grim look. The dark dragon hound suddenly sent him an alert. Immediately, both the purple python and the inferno dragon hugged the ground. Following the hound's direction, Su Ping looked up and managed to see a tiny dot drifting in the sky. That's a hermit sparrow. Su Ping squinted his eyes and carefully inspected this 8th rank avian pet, which was usually famous for its superior eyesight, even more effective than thermal scopes. Common means of camouflage were useless against it. Although this bird had a huge weakness, it couldn't detect targets with exceptionally low body temperatures very well. Although most monsters in the wilderness were hot enough for the bird to see, unless something deliberately lowered its metabolism to escape such detection, which was not very likely, only battle pet warriors could think on that kind of level. Hermit sparrows are social, which means there are more of them nearby. Or maybe it's being controlled by a settler. Su Ping carefully assessed the situation while assuming the worst. This was necessary if he wanted to stay alive. If it has an owner, that man must be within 25 kilometers. Such knowledge was usually available in academies, though Su Ping still knew it thanks to his survivalist training. At the moment he had another reason to avoid unnecessary battles so as to not to attract troublemakers. He wanted to snatch the treasure and leave as fast as he could manage. I can't hide from that sparrow. If its master is an 8th rank pet master, then he or she should already know I'm here. As Su Ping tried to decide what to do, the bird suddenly dashed away. What is it doing? Maybe its master is in danger, or... He pondered and began chasing the bird with his pets. Momentarily, he arrived at a cluster of dead trees, a place he was quite familiar with. Without a second thought, he ordered his pets to stay low and head further inside. The smell of rot in the air immediately reminded him of where he was. There's an anima fruit growing around here. Such a fruit was a potent supplementary item for undead-type astral pets because it contained rich undead energy. Low-rank undead pets might directly evolve by consuming it. The fruit was also a valuable treasure in this sector. Still, Su Ping had only thought about it until then because he had been too focused on getting the main one. Retrieving the fruit wouldn't be easy, however, as those woods were being guarded by a great many 9th-rank monsters. To make it worse, there was an upper 9th-rank quietus wraith watching over the fruit, which was skilled at powerful spiritual attacks that couldn't be defended against easily. Back inside the corresponding dragon-scale land, Su Ping managed to kill it after dying a dozen times together with the Inferno dragon. He believed that the wraith was an even worse enemy compared to that giant flame blood dragon. He lifted an arm and summoned Little Skeleton. The skeleton stayed unmoving for a moment beside his feet, before it hopped in delight upon sensing the undead energy all around the environment. With his full team in operation, Su Ping slowly entered the woods. In the middle of the woods lay a patch of empty earth surrounded by towering trees, save for a lone pile of dirt and a tiny tree growing in front of it. This tree was pitch black from top to bottom, and was constantly coated inside ominous dark mist from which the faint cries of ghosts could be heard. Two groups of people stood waiting on both sides of the tree, together with several pets of various sizes and looks. The bigger group with 9 people had only summoned 3 pets, but they appeared no less compelling when compared to the other 6-man group who had more pets out. I know the Tang family is well respected in the base city. But we're not in the city anymore. We found it first, and we'll take it. The speaker was carrying a sealed box in his hand, from where tiny swirls of black energy were leaking, either because the box was not tight enough, or whatever was inside could not be fully contained. With the help of the hermit sparrow, Tang Ruyan's group had arrived at a rare wraith tree only to find that somebody was already collecting the bounty. It was said that this tree only produced a single fruit over the course of 1,000 years, which was used for greatly enhancing undead-type astral pets. The Tang family did have many young members who used such pets, so they wanted to retrieve the fruit for their own use. The growth of their future generation was critical. Since you know who we are, I suggest that you hand it over, Duo Fenchkin responded steely. Even if you manage to get away with it, I doubt you'll live long enough to keep it. End of the chapter. Astral Pet Store will be read in 5 chapters for every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. Please leave this sound novel and press subscribe, follow, and the bell so you don't miss any new clips as well. See you.